I'm basically interspersing some sonics. And in a certain sense, there were a number of mystery schools in Egypt. Each mystery school, in a certain sense, connected to a temple, because a temple was working on a particular chakra in a certain. And you'll see some of the temples in the slideshow that I show you. But just to set the tone, I'd like you to close your eyes, and I'm going to do one chant, and then I'll tell you a funny little story about how I got it. So, close your eyes. So, the secret to vocal harmonics and chanting has to do with vowel tones, okay? And it's called sacred vowels. And later on today, I'll be taking you on a journey through the Kabbalah, Kabbalistic sound, and angels, but in Egypt it would have been more atonal and more invocation of what one could call gods and goddesses too.
Sekhmet, Tach, Nefertum was the triad of Heliopolis. Nefertum means the harmony of the one God. So until you really know the language of the culture that's chanting, you don't really have the cognitive part of the experiential of the chant. So it's an invocation, not of an extraterrestrial God, but of an inner quality. And in Egypt, there was a tremendous understanding of the human body and the energy grids and all of that. And I would suggest to you when we get to Saqqara that my guide in Egypt was a wonderful man named Abdul Hakim Iwan. And he is available, recorded on video by Carmen Bolton in the Pyramid Complex. It's about 4 hours. He's talking about harmonic sound practices in Saqqara. Okay? So there's so much. I can only do so much in an hour on Egypt, but I'm going to do it anecdotal because I'm a tour guide. You know, in Egypt, when I take a tour, or John Anthony West takes a tour, whatever, by the law of Egypt, we have to have a trained Egyptological guide, right, who have a certain understanding from their texts and what they learn at school. But rogue Egyptologists, like myself, we basically ask for a silent guide only to have them give us the standard archaeology when we need it, because we have a different understanding of Egypt. Okay. So how about, without further ado, we'll kind of head into the slides. This is the Giza Plateau, sunrise in the morning, and I happen to bring in my little quartz sphere because I wanted to turn the pyramid upside down. And the whole plateau is resonant. And according to a number of channels, there's an underground village, and there's an amazing unexcavated archaeological site underneath the Giza Plateau. Okay? And it's quite remarkable. Because, you know, you check into your hotel, and it could even be up to like half a mile away or something, and all of a sudden you feel that energy. And you just wake up, and you're thrown into a past life. And there you are, with the car horns and the donkeys and the salespeople and your intermittent downloads of memory in dream state. This is a long slideshow, so I have to kind of intersperse it, and every now and again I'll ask you to close your eyes and do a bit of sonic work with you, okay? And there'll be a little bit of time for questions at the end. This is a little ceremony that I like to do in the morning. That's a place where Swivara had the 11-11-11 ceremony. And you can all stand up and do it, why not? That's Egyptian yoga. So what you're doing is you're becoming the goddess root of the heavens, and you're holding between the palms of your hands the cubit wand. You want to stand up and do it? Okay? And I will give you, well, let's do that one that I just chanted again, okay? So you're creating a tuning fork out of your body. The palm chakras have the pericardial meridian that comes down into the heart. So you're holding your hands to the heavens and bringing the heavens down to earth. Or if you were an Alice Bailey type, you'd call it bringing in the soul star into the heart. Okay? And let's do that now. That's, in a certain sense, making the one into two, becoming one again. If that makes sense to you. Okay. Be seated. Now, let me tell you a little story about how that chant was given to me. I'm in, we can go to the next slide now. That's just the piano at the Vita House, which is a great hotel to stay in. Usually there's classical music. You meet wonderful people from around the world at the Vita House. It's in Oberoi. It's a 5-star. It's obviously more expensive than other hotels, but it's worth staying there for me always. Okay. So I was working with someone. This is an anecdotal story, and she came to me, and she was having some problems. She came from a family, and her dad was an Egyptologist, and she'd had a sexual relationship with her brother. It was really troubling. Okay, so this was tricky therapy work. And she's on the table, and she's doing a chant that goes, I want to know. I want to know. You'll never forget the vowels from this chant, right? So I'm listening, and I'm hearing my guide say, I want to know. I, U, O. And knowing something of the science of sound from my work with the Sufi order, Hazrat Inayat Khan and Hirlayat Khan, the son. I is somewhere up here in the auric field. A is in the heart. U is in the belly, we should say, or the Hara center. O is in the throat. So I understood what was going on. And you remember seeing, you might see in the slideshow, the pharaohs with their 2 hands underneath their chin, you know? So in a certain sense, with eye to eye, you're pulling the energy from third eye down into the heart. And O, you're taking the energy from the navel, the belly area, up into the throat. So those are the 2 currents that run simultaneously through your spinal column and through your auric field. There's the current of the spiral vortex of heaven descending through you. And there's the current of the telluric earth energy, kundalini energy coming up from the earth through the coccyx and up. And that's 2 different styles of mysticism. Because if you're, you know, if you're like Gopi Krishna or something, then you're working on bringing that current up and purifying the chakras from the earth up and letting the nachash, that's the Hebrew word, the snake energy come up and open up the closures of the different chakras. Whereas if you're a Christian mystic, you're working with the energies of the dove that's coming down from the soul star, basically above the Antipurana bridge, coming down and through the nervous system. Okay? And different temperaments, different people want to work with one or the other, but I think there's some mystics that work with both. I guess I'm one of those. And those 4 vowels in that sequence will work to do both of those. So that's one worth remembering. And if you forget, just say the phrase, I want to know. Any questions about that? Okay. Now let's go back to the slideshow. This is a friend of mine named the Fox. He has helped me climb the Giza pyramid at a time. Hope that I'm not being watched on YouTube by the Egyptian government, because that's not allowed anymore. But for a period of time, it was something that you could do until somebody fell off. And there's an amazing energy up at the top of the pyramid. I think there's a slide in it in the slideshow. But one morning, hold it on the, that's enough. We'll go back to the fox. I have a small tour group at the Mina house, and they're asking me at breakfast, well, what are we going to, how are we going to start? And I shake my head. I don't know, let's divine your hot chocolate. So, I'm not kidding. So I look into the hot chocolate and I see the face of a fox. And I say, aha, we'll go out to the third pyramid, which is the pyramid of Dendara, which is the Mercury, okay? And because I know that the fox sometimes hangs out there, and that's one of the places he guides, but we go out there, sure enough, he was there waiting for you, almost saying, what took you so long? I was waiting for you. Because the guides in Egypt dream you in, some of them, in the morning, and they say, gotta go here, Spirit's taking me out, I've got work to do at this pyramid, or whatever. So, I love these guys, these are my friends in Egypt. And it makes it so easy for me as a guide to have people that commit their whole life to guiding Westerners and tourists of all cultures, the French particularly, to the various sacred sites in Egypt. He might have retired by now, I don't know. Next slide. Oh, this is another one of me turning the pyramid upside down. Next slide. This is a photograph that I took from Saqqara, which is only, what, 12, 15 kilometers away from Giza. Now, Saqqara is called a mortuary temple now, but Abdul Hakim pretty much proved to me that it was a temple for sound and light, and it was basically the healing academy for the training of the priests and priestesses. Okay, and it was under the aegis of Ptah. And if you, I'll try and do a summation of the Egyptian pantheon towards the end of this hour, but Ptah is like the creator energy for artisans, okay? And maybe Assyrian. Hakim more or less convinced me that Ptah was mysterious. Okay. This is another one of my kind of artsy photos of the same sonic animal, which you can see. But the love of sacred geometry is nested in Islamic culture. So if I were to take my crop circle oracle card deck and show it to, you know, someone in Morocco, Turkey, Egypt, they would rock it. Because, you know, Islam as a religion, just like Judaism, is you're not supposed to have images of people or images of gods or anything like that, but sacred geometry is fine. So I love Moroccan tile work. I just happen to love that carpet, and I thought, good shot. And the Giza Plateau is a raucous place, by the way. You never know what you're going to get on the Giza Plateau. You're obviously going to get a dozen kids trying to sell you little camels and make music and stuff. Next. This is a water wheel, and there's a couple of books written that says that's how Joseph, biblical Joseph, also called Yuya in Egyptian, was able to preserve the wheat. He used a certain way with water and was able to portage some of the mild water and use it for irrigation and this and that. So this is set up near the Fayum oasis in Egypt. Next. This is a very, very special place that Hakim would often take people to Abu Sir, and he claims, although it's pretty much fallen now, he says there were 7 pyramids in Abu Sir connected to the Pleiadian star system, and there are some chalices of cryptocrystalline quartz, which of course you go to the Egyptian archaeology and they think it was like bloodletting or something. It's bullshit. What it was charging water, charging essential oils, and you know aromatherapy comes out of Egypt. In a certain sense, most of the vibrational healing arts are our beginning of our recollection of something that was worked with in Egypt. Pendulum dowsing came out of Egypt, drill sticks. So Egypt is the source for vibrational healing. So if you're a vibrational healer, then if you want to go to Egypt at some point just to get a download of the dream state when you're there, hopefully this will be a stimulus on that. So Abasir is a great place. There's a man named Rocky McCollum, and he did some dowsing work, and he felt that there was a place called the Solar Cross. We think we found it in this group. The man that's there with the head wrote a poem book on Akhenaten. He had a soul memory of being with Akhenaten, as many of my friends have. And we're looking down this shaft, and I think at one point I threw in a stone, we never heard it land. So it just went on forever. And he claims that the pyramids form a spiral rotation out from the center of the solar cross and was a kind of a map. So all you're going to read about mostly is Robert Laval and Hancock talking about the 3 stars of the belt of Orion being the 3 pyramids, but there's a lot more to celestial stuff. There's another book by a man from South Africa called Hidden Records, which is quite gives a map of like 22 pyramids in Egypt, saying that this was like a star map on the landscape. Next. Oh, if you go to my website, www.treeoflifeschool.com, into the Egypt gallery, I posted a chapter of a novel that's yet to be published on Egypt there. And I highly recommend it. If this Egyptian presentation interests you, then go to that and read the whole chapter. It's chapter 16. Next. This is a little ceremony. Last time I was there, I was walking along collecting these little agates. And I had a crystal with me because when I go to Egypt, I use crystals the way other people use photographs, I guess. I'm more artistically inclined. So when I have a crystal and I meditate with the crystal at the pyramid, inside the king's chamber, Abydos, Dendara, I remember which crystal, I bring it home, and when I want to get some more information, I just do a meditation up in my loft, my geodesic, with that crystal. And crystals are recording devices. So if you can get into a meditation state when you're traveling, it gives you another way of bringing back some of what you got there. Not that it isn't your field, but where it is for it. So I had the 7 little agates as the 7 stars of the Pleiadian system as we see it from here. Next. And there's a little close-up of it. And I still meditate both with the agates and the crystal. And I call it crystal to Alcyone because Alcyone or Alcyone was the lead star of the Pleiades, and my friend Barbara Ann Clow says that there's a kind of an Akashic library on Alcyone. Next. This is from a photograph from Amarna. It's misspelled from my person who put the slide together for me. And what Akhenaten did was, and they say both him and Nefertiti seem to have been Syrian. He came and, you know Freud wrote a book, Moses and my monotheism, right? And Akhenaten, with this tremendous whole grid of gods and goddesses that were existing in Egypt at the time, he wanted to simplify it, and he was the creator, the channel for monotheism, if you want. So he just had the rays of the sun, Aten disk. And Amarna was an amazing place because he brought in people from dancers, healers, physicians, merchants from all around the Mediterranean world. So Amarna was a tremendous celebration of joy, beauty, dance, ceremony. And the other thing that Akhenaten did was that he got something from a group that was down near the Dead Sea, and also a stela in the Sinai, a powder that had what are called the monoatomic minerals. You've heard about the monoatomics? David Hudson? Many. Okay. So these are the 7 minerals: gold, platinum, palladium, rhodium, iridium, ruthenium, osmium. And those are called the minerals of the keys to kings, is the way one alchemist described it. So these are the preformative minerals that exist in a higher vibrational state before they come down into the physical. and a lot of healing can happen. Aloe vera just happens to have a lot of rhodium and iridium, and we need that for the hemispheres of our brain. So the Essenes realized that the rhodium and iridium and some minerals from the Dead Sea was the local aloe vera was getting that. So when you want to do a colon cleanse, or you want to cleanse your system and bring in higher vibrational energies, having aloe, even just drinking aloe vera regularly, is a very useful practice. And someone just got from me a piece of amber. Well, amber, if it's fallen into the ocean, has got the energy of the ocean, and particularly what you need for your thyroid gland. Yeah, the iodine. So amber was used in Egyptian medicine, sometimes as a powder in an elixir, but they even made rods of amber so that when an Egyptian priest was chanting or bringing through a vibration, the amber would amplify that. As it happens, in Hebrew, amber is called chashmal, and the word chashmal in Hebrew means electricity. So we discovered something about electricity from amber, because when you rub it, you know, it can lift up paper. And if you want to read the book of Yechezkel, the Hebrew prophet, he uses chashmal a lot when he has a vision of what is called the Merkabah, now known as the Merkaba because of Rimbal's translation, I think. But the Hebrew word is Merkaba. And maybe I'll share a little bit of that towards the end of the seminar today. Okay, next guys. Next. This is all the way down at Aswan. And that's looking at, I guess, Elephantine Island, where there was a ruin. It's a place where the kids go sailing. You'll see a little photograph later, kids out in what looks like a bathtub. I love going to Aswan. I've got a few more photos. Hebrew people lived there for about 500 years. In fact, people that research history realize that there was a group of Hebrews or Jewish culture never left with the Akhenaten crew. They just stayed there. Paul Solomon, who's written a very, very good book about, I call it the Crown of Enlightenment, but he suggests that the Ark of the Covenant rested down in Aswan for a period of time. More on the Ark of the Covenant later. Aswan has the Nubian energy. Maybe at a break I can find a CD, I'll put on a little bit of my favorite Egyptian musician for you to listen to. Khamsa al-Din. Next. This is when you're just out in a little sailboat, and that's probably a hotel with the gardens in the background. And it's a divine thing to be down there. Now, Joey Joplins, who was one of the first people to take groups to Egypt, in my time anyways, he, the group's going for centuries, but he set up this pattern saying that when one is going from Aswan to the pyramids, you're doing a climb through temples, each temple representing a particular learning lesson from a particular chakra. So when you get to Dendara, you're working with sexual energy. And when you get to Abydos, you're working with heart chakra energy and the mysteries of death, rebirth, and that sort of thing. So each temple focused on a certain initiation in the energy field. Okay. So Aswan's more down at the root energy, if you want. Next. This is another Hakim, and he is, he's got the best galabeas, really. And he's got, I think he's the captain of the ships at the Old Cataract Hotel, which used to be, when I first went to Egypt the very first time in '79, I was able to stay at the Old Cataract for 3 days. Now it's what they call a 7-star hotel. It costs $600 a month, and only wealthy oil sheikhs stay there. Yeah, but the woman who wrote Murder Mysteries from Britain, what's her name? What?
Agatha Christie.
Yeah, Agatha Christie had a room there, so she wrote her novels there every winter. Next. Now, and that is the Old Cataract. I think they built a new cataract that's taller, and Hakim in a happy mood there, and we're just out on a boat together. And I consult with him on politics now and again. Next, this is morning in Aswan, fresh hot pita. I keep that over my stove as a memory of Egyptian hot pita. Next. There we go. It shouldn't have been called breakfast of donkey. I get something else. But this is in the Aswan market, which is a wild market with African chachkas and this and that. I got poisoned in that market. Somebody didn't like me, and they put something in the tamarind that I drank out. Somebody at the shop offered me a tamarind, so I'm a little cautious in that market. But it's a great market, and I do have shopkeeper friends there that I've known for like 23 years. Next. Here is a young man who had a great laugh. His name's Mohammed. He had the sweetest little daughters. That was before my beard turned white. Anyways, he was training in healing with a Sufi. So he talked about the healing power of stones, and he told me about his sheikh, and he had stronger energy than most people in North America who do a bit of Reiki. Lovely guy. I haven't seen him for years. And one thing about Egypt that's interesting is that some of the shopkeepers there are true mystics, meaning they're not like in North America where somebody, you know, puts all of their life energy into like learning something and going to seminars and weekends and this and that. These guys are in the market, as the Sufis recommend. They're in life, they're in the market, they're with their kids, they're selling stuff, but they've got a particular spiritual training that they're working with too on the side. Next. This is my dear friend Kamalia. I think now I've changed her name. Kabbalistically, I've added an I, so it's Kamalia, which means a gentle ascension. And she's just pointing, she really liked how they took their various spices and turned them into pyramids. And I don't know, I'm very much in love with going to markets. I photograph them, and I'm one of those, I probably was a shopkeeper or something in the past. Next. This is, I think he's Muhammad. If you go to Egypt and you have a chance to spend maybe 3 nights on the Nile, don't do it in a 5-star boat with, you know, kind of a fake belly dance show and stuff. You know, if you can, get out on a felucca for a day or two, maybe sleep one night at the bank of the Nile, you know, with Sugar King next to you. I think there's an adventure travel company that does that, mostly for the, you know, the 20-year-old set. Because then you feel the river, and you feel the pace of the Egyptian civilization. It's very, very special. And I'll treasure it. I've only done it, of all the trips I've been on, I only did it twice. Usually I'll do a 1-day trip with Hakim and go to a Nubian village, which is a totally other culture. Like the Nubian village, I like, there'll be a photograph. Next. They have, for the kids, what you could call a baby sobek. Sobek's a little alligator, right? Crocodile. And they're household pets. Of course, when they put when UNESCO or whoever did it put in the Aswan Dam, and it was supported by Russian money, then all of a sudden the Nile didn't work anymore, and the arable, the flood of the Nile was what was creating the fertility of Egypt up to like 5 miles on either side of the Nile, and now it's down to like, you know, half a mile or something. So that dam, which worked great, I guess, for the creation of electricity, didn't work so well for agriculture in Egypt. Next. I arrived one day with 4 or 5 people, and I get to the, like, we're coming down from Luxor by boat. Just as I'm getting off the boat, I hear a voice. Mr. Yusuf, it's me, Ahia, come with me. He's inviting me to a Nubian wedding. We've been on a tour boat, and we hadn't even checked into our hotel down in Aswan. So, you know, I said, what time? you know? And it was at midnight, so we got a chance to check into the hotel. One of my clients was suspicious. He said, "Do we really want to go to him at midnight in a taxi to, you know, the wedding?" And I said, "You bet we do. You're going to balk? You're going to just, you know, sleep? Or you're coming?" She came. We had the time of our life at this wedding with all the little Nubian kids, and I'm traveling with a little lap harp, and they all want to play it. We were there till like 4 or 5 in the morning. So what I'm saying is that when you go on a tour that's like a mystical, esoteric tour, it's really good to be a cultural anthropologist. Open up your heart to the people, because Egypt was about opening the heart chakra, among other things. So you want to be with the people. You're not just going to select the creme de la creme of temples and do your meditations. That's imaginations for many. These are the kids, you know? I will always travel with a musical instrument when I go to Egypt, because that way I get to spend time with the sweet kids. Next. And their wedding was fabulous, just fabulous. Next. That is my friend Abdul Hakim Iwan. He ascended about 2-3 years ago. And there's books written by a man who lives in Boulder, Colorado, about Hakim, and I'll post them on the website. He was a great guide, you know. Once I'm arriving with a group, and it was a large group, 15 people, maybe, large for me anyway. And it's on our way to the Mina house to check in. I knock it, I say, "Hakim, I've got a group who just come," and he smiles and says, I know. Because he would dream it in. And then he gives me a big hug and says, "Welcome home." And I say, "It's good to be back." And then he says, "We have all the keys to all the chambers," meaning that there was a time when some of the guides could get the keys without bypassing the Egyptian government. Because if I take a group, I've got to pay $1,500 just to get into the king's chamber and do a meditation for an hour and a half, and another $500 to do a meditation in the pause of the Sphinx and stuff, off hours before other people go. So there's a whole economy there with all that. Anyways, he managed to have all the keys. We went to the hotel, and by 10 o'clock at night, because I don't know, people had been change of circadian rhythm, we were in meditation like that, and that was thanks to Hakim, you know, and wonderful times with him. This was just a musical moment down in near Aswan. Next. Philae is a rebuilt temple. Imagine, UNESCO, when the Nile flooded, it wiped out where the Philae temple, the temple for Isis, or Set was her Egyptian name. They wiped it out because it got flooded. UNESCO moved the stones one by one and put it on another island. And it's a reasonable tourist place because they do a dramatic sound and light show. You usually go by night, you go by boat. So this is from the rebuilt Isis temple. And these are a couple of my dear friends. And it's nice to look up at the star series when you're in the Isis temple. Anybody read, people are aware of the channelings that come through Judy Sion and Tom Kenyon? A few, okay. Because Isis, I know her as Aset, but the channeling that has come through Judy Sion, particularly the Magdalene manuscript, I recommend that you get a copy of that book. You'll learn a lot about alchemy. And you'll learn a lot about the relationship between Yeshua, who they call Jesus here in North America, and Mary Magdalene. Magdalene being a priestess from the Isis sisterhood, and Yeshua undergoing a particular initiation, possibly in Egypt between a certain age. It's very beautiful work that they brought through. Next. That's me on one of my felucca rides. That was a failed experiment. I tried for 2 days to buy that pillow, and the guy wouldn't sell it to me. I wanted the pillow. Next. And these are friends, musical friends that play outside of the Marriott Hotel in Luxor. Now the Marriott's not as good as it used to be. I think it's like the place where Egyptian businessmen meet for, you know, conventions and stuff. But it used to be a really great place to stay. Next. This is a man, Walid, who has a great market in Luxor. And I've known him for many, many years. Great tapestries. And he's got a friend who's a Sufi who's nearby, so I spent a little bit of time. Next. Those are his silk carpets. If you like carpets, Egypt's a great place to get carpets. Next. This is the temple of Hatshepsut, who was a female pharaoh, right? And Hatshepsut, as far as I can tell, was really into aromatherapy and elixirs. Take a look at the slide. It's very, very interesting. That's on the wall of the Hatshepsut temple. Next. I had a client who was interested in making elixirs. I told her it's always a good idea to put at least a lid on your alcohol. So if you're making an elixir, you want to pull in an energy from an earth energy station. I've done a lot of cathedral rock in Sedona. She was doing one at Dendara. She just left her brandy open. I wouldn't have done that. I would have had a glass jar. But it's a matter of just letting the alcohol store the energy of the earth energy or the vibration of the place or whatever. And then I do a couple of other chargings with it after. You don't need much. It's homeopathic. It's like homeopathy where you can get, you know, a 1M potency by tapping and stuff. So you just want a few drops in water, and then you charge the water and you drink it. There was wonderful ceremonies that have been documented by people around the Blue Lotus. Anybody hear about the Blue Lotus? Yeah. The Blue Lotus was used as somewhat of an aphrodisiac by the Egyptians in and around Dendara. So there was a whole mystery school in Dendara around sexuality. And I've got a few photos coming up in Dendara, but there's 11 different crypts underneath Dendara. So there was a whole understanding of the Kundalini energy, sexual energy, the mating dance between male and female, and that's what that particular temple was about. Next. There we go. Here's a couple of the photographs from underneath one of the crypts in Dendara. The guys who were into electricity and stuff, they thought that, you know, there was some kind of light bulb and use of electricity and use of, you know, alternative technology. I don't agree with them on that. I think that basically you have a mating between the serpent energy of male sexuality and the bulbous plant representing the feminine. That's my guess on that. But they may be right. I don't know. Next. This is a photograph, and I've got a colored one. I'll leave it on the table over there. It's a little bit, well, they're okay. It's been lightened up a little bit. They spent about 2 years adding color to that's a 16-foot tall temple, at least, maybe 18. So I'm lying on the floor after they've done put in the color for 2 years, just photographing the beauty of the mosaic on the roof of the temple at Dendara. Now the French seem to have loved that temple. I don't know if it was with Napoleon or not, but they took the beautiful Dendara zodiac. It's in the Louvre. The French have taken many artifacts away out of Egypt and brought them to France. You know, sphinxes for fountains and this and that. And Edgar Casey said an interesting thing. He said that the French are actually the reincarnation of a nation of the Egyptians. I've thought about that a lot. Imagine a whole culture, Egypt, where everything was done for the afterlife, yeah? Like every thought, word, and gesture had to do with, so that you would have a good journey out of body into the realm of the imperishable stars? Well, the French live for the moment. They'll eat anything. They're not hedonists, they're epicures, right? So if you were a soul and you spent a few lifetimes like denying yourself physical for the metaphysical, whatever, I guess it's worth a lifetime to come back to enjoy good cheese and a bit of horse meat. Next. This is the raising of the Jed pillar, out of which came the Jedi, you know? Now, there was something going on in Abydos in terms of the number 42. I think there were 21 provinces above and 21 provinces below, and those two aspects of Egypt had to be brought into harmony, and that happened in Abydos. However, the raising of the Jed, at a certain point, Abraham Clow is the one who's written about this most. Most people who read astronomy think we've always been in this 23.5-degree tilt, right? Which gives us seasons. Well, Abraham Clow and Walter Crittenden and a few others believe that we got knocked at the time when Atlantis went under about 17,000 years ago, okay, 9,600 BCE. So, in a certain sense, there was a period of time where everybody was just wondering what the hell was going on with seasons and what were these solstices and equinox, and the raising of the Jed was trying to like bring us back into alignment, one should say. So that's the raising of the Jed ceremony. But there's something about this column for, have you ever seen an Egyptian pendulum where they've got kind of, it looks like a Jed pillar? It's very, very interesting. I don't have one on my table, but I should. Next. This is a close-up of the Jed pillar being used in the, I guess, the sexual mating dance. Next. Next. Now, behind the temple of Seti I in Abydos, and I hope I've got a few more slides of Abydos. First time I was there, I had an extraordinary experience. I was traveling with a friend of mine who is very gifted with harmonics. So I'm not going to do one from the temple, but close your eyes and I'll do another vocal harmonics. It's supposed to be more about sound than story. Eyes closed, if you would. Take a deep breath and blow it out. That's a chant. I'm doing it more Egyptian style than Hebraic, but the Hebraic culture came out of being with Akhenaten and being with Egypt, so. And in Hebrew, those are the vowels that come out of the phrase Ruach Elohim, which means the breath of the gods, or the divine energy. So I've taken the vowel sounds out of that Hebrew phrase for that particular chant. And it can be done Native American style. Native American style is a little quicker, a little bit more rhythmic. So, the breath of the Elohim is also called the Spirit of God, and it's translated, mistranslated. But it's a matter of when you're working with the vocal harmonics and the vowel tones, it's an infusion from your auric field to your chakra grid, opening up centers. Yeah. So behind the Osirium, behind the temple of Seti I, is the Osirium, which is an old temple. You're familiar with Drunvalo's work? Flower of Life 1 and 2, handful of you. So the temple of Seti I is an amazing place. I met a woman named Seti. There's a good novel about her. She used to go as a kid to the British Museum, and she fell down and hurt her head. Her parents were really worried about her, and she always wanted to go back to Egypt. And she did go back, married an archaeologist, and was almost like the hidden keeper. On the first trip I ever took, she was there in Abydos. And she told me once, because she could see that I worked with sound, she said, you know, in this temple there is a door, an etheric door that can be only opened by sound, Joseph. I've never found it. But God knows, I'll keep going back to Abydos. I like it there. It feels great. And behind Abydos is this other temple called the Osirion, and you'll see another slide of that shortly, which they say is the oldest in Egypt. Not the pyramid they say is not that old, but the valley temple in front of the Sphinx and the Osirion are thousands of years old, and they're built in big megalithic blocks. It's an interesting place. Next. There we go. And that's where Greg Braden and others found these hieroglyphs that look like an early version of a helicopter, things like that. Hard to get into unless you kind of dress for it, like you need to bring your scuba equipment or something. I won't go in there. I'll go down and I'll do some photography, but I'm not going to go in these chambers yet. Maybe I will one day. I don't know. Maybe Patricia Corey takes people there. I don't know. But it's a totally, when you're there, you know that you're in a much more ancient temple in Abydos at the Osirion. Next. And there's another one. And that's basically, you know, seeping water from the Nile because it's so low. Next. And that is the flower of life. Drunvalo and I disagree on this one. Drunvalo believes that this is, you know, thousands and thousands of years old. I believe that it was apported over by Greek monks because there was an early Christian energy that took over Abydos, like, I don't know, 50 to 150 AD, something like that. So the first mystical Christians went to Abydos. And if you look closely, there's other writings by a man named Mackey called The Light of Egypt. In a certain sense, Easter, when you celebrate Easter, it's not just the death and resurrection of Jesus or whatever. It's a ceremony that was done at the full moon of Libra after the spring equinox. And it was done probably every year or every certain number of years in the king's chamber of the Giza pyramid. Go on, when we get to Giza, I'll explain more about that. Next. That's me with my fish bag, you know, fish being a symbol of the early Christians. And then I have all my guides just behind my nose there. And that's looking down at the temple at the Osirion with those huge pillars and stuff. Next.
You're wearing the same hat.
Pardon?
You're wearing the same
no,
hat.
that one's purple, this one's cobalt. I tend to bury them a little bit. Next. This is a story. I have taken my clients through what is called the Temple of Man, which was excavated by Walter Schwaller de Lubitz. And it's like walking, it's almost like walking, like a radionics unit where you walk through your whole body. You know, and you do it at night. So we did it from like, I don't know, 9 to 11 or something, slow walk. My friend, you'll see later, she was doing the posture of Nut that I gave you in the beginning, and a little bit of chanting, and she felt chi energy in her palms. or sechem energy would be what it's called, like nobody's business. And she was ecstatic. She's a healer. And it was like she got a certain energy in her body awakened by being in that temple. Well, my other friend, I said after that, because I don't, like I'm on tour, says, hey, you want to go catch the Cobra show at the Old Cataract Hotel? I said, sure. So we went, and it wasn't a good-looking cobra. It was like, it had been battered up a little bit, and we watched the show. Next slide. Oh, maybe there's slides later. It's okay, leave them up. And my one character, who's a black healer, he asked if he could play with the cobra, and he did. Whereas my other friend was spooked as all get out. I believe she probably had a lifetime in Egypt when the ophites, serpent and snake lovers, were around, and it didn't work for her. So, next. I like to go to the Sinai. Sinai is technically part of Egypt now. It was part of Israel at a certain point. And I wanted to go with a fishing boat, or like, because it's about 3-4 hours to get from Aswan to get to the Sinai. And if not, you gotta fly back to Cairo, fly there, it's a big expense. So I found this boat, just managed to catch it, because it had already left the shore, so the taxi couldn't get us there in time. My people I was with they thought I was nuts, because I basically got a megaphone and yelled and said, come back, you have 2 more clients. we booked it, we got a ticket, come back. They did, they came back and got us. And our reward for that is that we had a dolphin escort for 3.5 hours from the place where we got the boat over to Sharm el-Sheikh in the Sinai. And that made one of my clients very, very happy. She loves dolphins. Next. And this is a little cafe. Europeans like to go here, Daha. It's a great place for snorkeling, scuba diving. Good. I mean, I have a friend who's in astrology. We went and lived there all winter long, and got a place to live for $10 a night, another $5 to snorkel. It was delighted. Next. And even Japanese tourists come to go scuba diving and snorkeling in Daha. Next. Here's a place that whenever I can, as long as they allow me to get to the Sinai, and I got blocked last time because there's been some violence in the Sinai. And that had to do with the political situation in Egypt, and it had to do with Morsi bringing in Islamic fundamentalists and giving them caves in the North Sinai, and tourists disappearing a couple of times. But I have a friend who's a monk there, and I've known him for 25, 30 years. And hiking in the Sinai is a dream for me, particularly around St. Catherine, where you get up at 3 in the morning and you climb to the top, and there's a slide later of it. And it's basically the oldest Greek Orthodox monastery in the Mediterranean. It was like the library of all of the scrolls and the books, and it never got any political pressures. It was always just preserved from any kind of politics. And there's beautiful icons there. See what other slides I've got in there. Now, maybe they'll be back, maybe they won't. Yeah, there we go. That was Ibrahim, a friend of mine. This is like sunrise looking over the mountains in Sinai. And it's wonderful. There's rocks, the story of the prophet Elijah, where, wind doesn't work it, and, it's like he did all of the dramatic things that are powerful, but ultimately he is initiated into finding what is called the culled daka, which the best translation is the still small voice within, or even Simon and Garfunkel, it's the sound of silence. So Eliyahu was this great, powerful guy, but his initiation was to find out that the spirit isn't in the thunderstorm and the lightning and the power of the wind and all of the elemental things that shamans play with. It's in the still small voice, or the voices like powder inside the heart chakra. Next. That's what they call a thunder egg in the Bedouin, where the guides will find them. They can see a rock and know that there's crystal inside. Next. That's me just staying warm after hiking up from like 3 to 7 in the morning or something. It's a bit of a hike, you know, it's a schlep. You're a little tired, but you need, the clothes will peel off as the sun comes out. Next. I happen to love the Bedouin. I have these two plus a couple of the young babies. This was on a car ride back from the Sinai, which is like 8 hours through from Sinai back to Cairo. It was on the edge of the Red Sea, right? And they got this little kiosk out of nowhere. I don't know whether they're selling Pepsi Cola and jewelry or something. But these are the moments that, you know, just open my heart when I'm traveling to Egypt. Obviously, one was married and one was available. Next. Now, Saqqara, that's a great photo because of the birds over it. They say it's a mortuary. I agree with Hakim. I think it was a healing temple. And God bless this French guy. He came and spent 30 years putting Saqqara back together, you know, like a kid who had a Lego set that fell apart. Said, no, I just got to put it back together again. So, next. The pyramid texts are written on the wall at Pyramid of Unas, I believe, is where they are. And you can't always get in. Hakim always got me special permit. And if the government wouldn't give it to him, he knew how to yell at them and say, this is for people who come back to Egypt who need to be here. So stop with your bureaucracy and give me the permit. And he had a kind of spiritual authority and was able to get permits that other people couldn't get because they knew that he was a local, he was a guide, he was from a family of Bedouin that understood what was going on. He wasn't like a university scholar, and they liked him. Yeah. They didn't play backgammon with him or something. Next. This is my version of a Stargate. It's another one of my idiosyncratic photographs. I'd done a workshop with Drunvalo in Britain, and a man had given me what is called it's a certain kind of boat or kayak. Somebody took the dimensions of Noah's Ark from the Bible and turned it into a micro kayak, right? And it's a fascinating thing because there's some weighting in it that's unusual, and it'll only spin in one direction. It'll only spin in that one direction in both north and south hemispheres. So it doesn't have to do with the Coriolis effect of water. So it's pretty interesting. And Drunvalo has a whole story about it, how it's already into the fourth dimension, which is interesting. I found the horseshoe and composed the photograph. Next. And that's my friend Trish. It's a triple exposure photograph. Next. Oops. And this is the kind of ceremony that I do in the morning in front of the Sphinx when I can pay for it, and pay them the $500 so that my tour group can spend an hour and a half with crystals, doing sound work, meditating on the Hall of Records. You know, the Hall of Records is the whole Atlantean time capsule. That's what it is. So it's recollections from 15, 16, 17,000 years ago. In the same way that the crystal skulls are a recollection of an Atlantean culture saying, look, this is what went wrong, this is what happened, this is what you need to know, we made this mistake with this technology, whatever, okay? So the Hall of Records is supposedly underneath, I think Edgar Casey said it's near the right paw of the Sphinx, and there are supposed to be 3 people on the planet, according to Edgar Casey's channeling, that have the recollections. One of them was the person that sealed it up 17,000 years ago or whatever. we'll go back one day. I know one woman who says she knows the times, and I'm trying to get her and a couple of others to come with me so that we can, and it's a repository of technology and records that may be very useful to us. Very useful at this time when we're making such a geological fracking mistake on our planet. Okay. So this is a wonderful ceremony. You know, there's a few ceremonies I like to do in Egypt. One involves 7 little, I never told you the story in Abydos, the 7 little temples. There's 7 little micro chambers in Abydos, and I'm with my friend who's a musician and gifted with an ear. And we're doing harmonics to find the chambers, the resonant frequency of these chambers in Abydos. And each one's dedicated to an Egyptian god, yeah? So we do them, and we're doing our tone scanning, and when you get the tone scanning and you start feeling it in your auric field, you know that that's the resonant harmonic. And so we went through this series of the Egyptian gods, these tiny little chambers. And when it's over, I go to the one that's for Seti 1, who's the keeper of, that's his temple, right? And I go to open my mouth and start chanting, because, you know, that's what I do. Nothing would come out. So here I am in this temple, waiting for sound to come out, and I'm technically speechless. And then all of a sudden, I feel this energy come up my spine, and I feel the cobra hood over top of my head, and I didn't know, I was 33 or something, I didn't know what was going on. And yeah, I'm kind of paranoid when I have paranormal experiences. But basically, I just had an initiation in that temple. And I'll never, ever forget it. And then the tragedy of being a tour guide, I come back outside, and I'm just kind of walking really slowly, absorbing the experience. And I got 3 people on my tour, and one of them was a real estate agent and a yogi. He's yelling at me and saying, Joseph Mark, the taxi's going to leave. The taxi's going to leave. You must come. And I'm sort of saying, let it go. We'll get another taxi. And so when I take people to Egypt, I make sure that I'm aware that people are going to have interplane experiences, and I'm going to be needing to be therapeutically compassionate and helpful. I'm not going to be, you know, a Germanic, we got to get here to there, we got to do this, we got to do that. Is everybody on the bus? I've seen those tours. I don't like them. I want everybody that comes with me to have the inner plane experience that they are destined and supposed to have. Keep going here, there's a few more slides. That's one I think I put on my website. It's fun to take photographs with the Sphinx. Next. This one, you can see it's on the table over there. Next. This is my buddy who has a little perfumery. They're not pure essential oils. France exports petrochemical oils for them to sell in many, and they do a whole big charming ceremony with it, but they're not great oils. Next. But he's another guy. These are hot tours that are lying down not so far from Saqqara. That's Hakim always used to take me to. Next. It's a hidden hot tour. Next. This is worth going if it's still happening. I've got an enlargement on my table over there. This is a show dervish. An Egyptian dervish, not a Turkish, not a Mevlevi. And they're wonderful dancers, and they spin, and they do a show in Cairo, and I guess they have one down in Sharm at a hotel. And my camera couldn't take it. He was spinning so fast. All of that beautiful color and fire is basically his colored skirt as he's spinning. And the music is truly hypnotic. I loved it. That's in a little mosque, I think, down near the Khan el-Khalifi. Next. This is just illumination. This is like a store that sells lights in the shuk. And I'm planning to do one day, if I have enough time and enough photos, of doing a calendar of marketplaces in the planet, because I love markets. Next. That's me and Hakim having probably a little joke Well, Hakim is at his water pipe there. I don't know if it's hallucinogenic. Probably not. It's probably just smoking, apricot tobacco, whatever. But he was an etymologist, among other things. And he would tell me what something meant in Egyptian. And then I would say, yeah, but in Hebrew, Hakim, it means this. So we'd have friendly discussions over words, the meaning of God, and all of that. I miss him. I really do. It's hard for me to go to Egypt without Hakim. His daughter's there, lives right by the Sphinx. She's a healer. She went to Hawaii. I think that a portion of his soul channels in through her. Yeah. Next. This is what it's like if you're going up the ascending passage in the Giza pyramid. Once I had a 300-pound radionic practitioner, whose name I won't mention. He was great. He made it rain in Cairo. That's a trick. He did it with his radionics unit. However, when I got him into the pyramid, he worked to make money as a baker, among other things. I wasn't sure I'd ever get him out. He was so, he didn't quite fit into the king's chamber. Next. This is the entrance when you just come into the king's chamber. I liked her little ceremonial posture for that. Next. And it should really be called the Chamber of the Open Resurrection. It has a harmonic. It's a 2-to-1 ratio, length to width, and it has a musical frequency. Paul Horn discovered that. It resonates exactly at 256 cycles per second. Before I close the Egypt section, which has gone a little long, I'll read you a few lines from a poem about 256, okay? And the coffer resonates at 432, which is Pythagorean tuning for A. You know, all of our calibrations for piano are 440. It's not accurate. There's a whole group of musicians who want to go back to 432 tuning. Well, there's a good reason to do it. 432 in Hebrew is the Hebrew word teva, which means globe. And it's twice 216, 2160 is the year, is the length of an astrological aeon. There's very good reasons to go back to 432 as the tuning. And I know there are older musicians who are doing that, and I'm trying to get somebody to create. I don't like singing bowls anymore, but if I had a 432, I wouldn't mind. I even have a friend who's adding water to a 440 to get it to come down at 432. Next. This was just after a ceremony with a very powerful channel that I was with once named Deborah West. And rather large orbs. These people just after a meditation. How about I'll do the angel thing that she asked me to do there. Close your eyes. Those are the Hebrew names done in harmonics for Uriel, angel of the east, connected to the Taurian star system and the Pleiades. Raphael, the angel of healing, connected to the Scorpio constellation, where we have neighbors at the star Alpha Centauri. Michael, connecting to Archangel Michael, likely connected to Regulus, the star that is, it's now at 0 degrees Virgo, but is the key star of the Leo constellation. And Gabriel, connected to actually Aquarius, and Gabriel's right, the one with the trumpet. and is the angel of border crossings. Well, if we're in an ascension portal now, and we're in a vibrational shift, the angel Gabriel is very important. And we have to have, as human beings, the gibor, the strength and the power and the majesty of the Elohim to go through that passage. How about we'll close it right there for the Egyptian section, take a little 5-minute break, and then I gotta introduce you to Pythagoras and number mysticism. And I'll put in the Egypt, a bit of the poetry for the next one.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.